Greetings. Do without wilt shall be the whole of the law. I'm Lexi Eve, and welcome back to another Walk Magick video. So today, I want to explore the ritual of Liber 8, which is basically an alternative operation to the Abramelin operation, or working. So, let's begin. Now, the main reason I'm putting this video out is because knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel is literally the most important thing you could do as a thelemic magician. It's going to really dictate how you do your true will, how you understand the universe, how you perceive the universe interacting with you, events in your life, how they have shaped you and for what reason they've shaped you, and what you're meant to do with those life experiences. Basically, every person needs to attain knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. And of course, if you're familiar with the Book of the Law and Crowley's commentaries and other writings, you'll know basically doing your true will is much like figuring out what your orbit as a star is. You're no longer trying to swerve off that course. You're then able to just go in that straight direction. So by everybody doing their true will, achieving knowledge and conversation, having that vital communication, everybody would be focused on what they need to do as opposed to just making a mess. And, you know, the world's always been pretty crazy. Maybe it's because we see it more with the internet and how quick news cycles go, the pace of news cycles. But ultimately, there's a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos. And I think a lot of that would subside if everybody was doing their true will and not really worried about what the next person's doing, because that person's also doing their true will. And there's a big thing in Liber laws of non-interference. So regarding Liber 8, I'm using the 1998 hardcover edition of The Vision and the Voice, published by Wiser. Now, there may be slightly different wording in some editions, such as Equinox Volume 1, Number 5, the supplement version, as I'm not cross-checking every word. Now, if you're unaware of really what I'm talking about today, Liber 8, as I said, is an alternative to performing the Abramelin operation. It's part of a received text by Crowley during his scrying of the AEthyr of the Enochian system. It also happens to be a much shorter alternative to the Abramelin. The Abramelin working is anywhere from 6 to 18 months, whereas this is a total of 91 days. So Liber 8, as it's called, is a received ritual, or received ritual set, that could be found in the Cry of the AEthyr in the Equinox Volume 4, Number 2, The Vision and the Voice. And as I've said, its purpose is to achieve knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. Over the course of 91 days, you'll be doing prayers for an hour at a time, performed from 3 to 7 times daily. And though this sounds like a lot, the Abramelin operation was anywhere from 6 to 18 months, with the same amount of magical requirements daily. And even Liber Samek, the other alternative, is 10 weeks minimum, with up to 4 times daily performance, in addition to other practices surrounding these. Now, 2 quick things. These 3 texts, the Abramelin working, Liber 8, and Liber Samek, in my opinion, are not the only ways that you could achieve knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. But they are tried and true tested systems that do work. And so maybe for, 1 out of every 100 or 1,000 people, this may not be the best option, but on the majority, any of these 3 texts will work. And so I want to break down how to do Liber 8. The other thing I'll just mention really quick, so it's 77 days of intensive prayer, followed by a day of finally achieving the knowledge and conversation and communicating with your angel that entire day, followed by 3 days following out in whatever instructions you get within the temple, and then a final 10 days in isolation, withdrawal, before you then go back into the world and continue with your great work to do your true will. Note that this ether, the AEthyr, is dictated by a vision of Aiwass, Crowley's Holy Guardian Angel, via his Skrying stone. Now, if you want a full video with details about Aiwass from across Crowley's publications, you could let me know in the comments, and if there's a demand for that, I can do it. The instructions begin at the bottom of the first of 7 pages of the Ether, and end just past the middle of the 4th page. Quote, "And thus shall he do who will attain unto the mystery of the knowledge and conversation of his holy guardian angel. First let him prepare a chamber, of which the walls and the roof shall be white, and the floor shall be covered with a carpet of black squares and white, and the border thereof shall be blue and gold. And if it be in a town, the room shall have no window, and if it be in the country, then it is better if the window be in the roof. Or if it be possible, let this invocation be performed in a temple prepared for the ritual of passing through the duat." End quote. So these are very specific temple specifications. You won't find the temple setup for passing through the duat in the text that's being circulated online. That's mostly passed down orally. So if you're going about the work on your own without guidance from AA or through another order but still want to use this text, you won't have access to the passing through the duat temple, but you have the alternative that's laid out by Aiwass. I strongly discourage anybody from doing most types of magic without some type of formal teaching in advance, but do without wilt. So if that's your path to be solitary, but I highly recommend everybody get a teacher. Like the Abramelin operation, if you are using a physical space for your rituals, this space should only be entered by you. You should essentially try to be isolated for as much of the operation as possible. This is, of course, not possible for everyone to be in total isolation. People need to work, make money, pay rent. So it's left to the magician to do their best on that front. Also, I recommend just wearing your robe in the temple. Don't wear mundane clothes. Don't wear shoes or socks. Be barefoot. Don't wear any jewelry or anything that is not magical or considered a magical weapon, talisman. And if you're wearing a magical talisman, it should be related to some kind of work with getting towards knowledge and conversation. It wouldn't do to have other talismans present. As far as the temple setup, it's calling for a white room. White being, symbolic of the light, Kether, those type of associations, with a carpet of black and white squares, signifying the duality of perhaps yin-yang, heaven-earth, all the rest. The borders of the carpet, being blue and gold, signify the colors of Nuith, and as well as Hadith, minus the red for his gleaming eyes and spangles of purple and green. Also, it says that there should be no window, but if you're isolated in countryside, there can be a window, but it should be in the roof if possible, which lets solar rays down into the temple. I guess east could technically be appropriate also for the rising sun, but you want light coming down from above you. It's symbolic of the light of Kether manifesting as the sun, all of those type of things. For the border of the carpet, blue is the vaulted night sky. Gold are the stars that are across her body. Stars being in reference to Tiferet, the sun, the main star of our local system of space. And that last little thing I just said, that's coming from a footnote to Crowley's commentary on the Book of the Law. Now, what I actually recommend is that all of this be created on the astral plane. As you follow the instructions later on of daily prayers, all of it should be in a temple space that you've constructed on the astral plane then, and exist within astrally for the duration of your prayers and invocations. I'll be explaining more as we go along, as you will then need to do consecration rituals of magical weapons that are entirely on the astral plane as well. Prior to Skrying of the AEthyr, Crowley had attempted the Abramelin operation once at Skrying. Possibly he started in Mexico, or at least took an oath that he was going to do it, before it was completely aborted at Skrying, and he was drawn into other ventures. When finally in Asia in October of 1906, he completed the entire Abramelin operation on the astral plane, sometimes even while traveling on horseback, if my memory serves me correct. So for that reason, I do believe it's very beneficial to do this ritual on the astral plane, much like Liber Samek. You don't even give the signs physically in Samek, give the signs on the astral plane. Quote, "From the roof he shall hang a lamp, wherein is a red glass to burn olive oil, and this lamp shall he cleanse and make ready after the prayer of sunset. And beneath the lamp shall be an altar, 4 square, and the height shall be thrice half of the breadth or double the breadth." End quote. I have videos in my Book 4 playlist about the magical lamp, purification and consecrations as well, so I'm not going to rehash those topics. I will add that choosing your lamp, it must have open panes of glass so that you could see the candle flame within it, and this text specifies that the panes must be red. If you see on your screen now, in Catholicism, many churches use a red glass sanctuary lamp, the red signifying the blood of Christ. Honestly, if you could get a lamp like this, some of them are very expensive, $500,000 up. This would be really good for this operation, but in Thelemic doctrine, and I can only speculate, I would assume that red is to signify the slain god of Tifereth, its blood, as well as such things as love and the fiery aspiration of the red triangle of the hexagram of earth. If you're doing this operation on the astral plane, set your mind upon creating a suitable lamp astrally. Fix every detail in your mind and make sure it is the same lamp every time you enter your astral temple. To consecrate the lamp on the astral plane, my recommendation is that you astrally create a vial of Abramelin oil. You imbue it with solar properties via, say, the greater hexagram of Sol and some invocations and conjurations of Sol. Then go about performing a consecration ritual using this astral oil upon this astral lamp, as though you would if it were a physical consecration ritual. The oil should be in a crystal flask, as specified in a moment. Keep in mind, as you use this oil, you should mentally record how much is left and see the contents go down with every use, as though it were physical oil. If it runs out, go through the process of astrally making more. The text instructs that the consecration should be done after sunset prayers. Most prayers, an hour or more, suffices. You can write your own, use suitable psalms. You could edit psalms to reflect Thelemic ideologies. You can pray impromptu to your Holy Guardian Angel. You could use recommendations from the Abramelin operation, recite holy book passages that seem prayer-like, especially those that pertain to the HGA, or you could use any combination of these. As long as you are sincerely aspiring to the HGA, I think it's good. For Abramelin prayers, for example, you could see Book 3 of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin the Mage. I recommend the new translation. You could go to page 1 of 3 of that text, and here's a solid prayer for consecrations, which you can use at the ending of your hour or more long prayer before you consecrate your lamp. The format and general intention or similar words are sufficient if you don't want to follow this exact format. You can take this and kind of take the idea and use whatever wording you want. So this is from the Book of Abramelin, quote, "Adonai, Adonai, my God, merciful and gracious, patient, faithful, and benevolent, you have proved your grace for 1,000 generations, and forgive misdeeds, violations, and sins, and in front of you no one is guilty. You retaliate the misdeeds of forefathers to the 3rd and 4th generations. I recognize my worthlessness. I am not worthy to stand before your holy face, and even less to ask your grace and blessings for the smallest gift. But Adonai, my Adonai, our alliance is great, and the springs of your goodness so overflowing, that you give to people who are ashamed of their sins and cannot drink from the spring of your goodness. You loudly invite them to take what you can offer. So, Adonai, my God, give me mercy and take from me all my excess. Wash from me all my uncleanliness and sins. Renew my spirit and strengthen it, so that it can be strong, so that I can understand the secrets of your grace and the treasures of your knowledge. Consecrate me through this oil of consecration, with which you healed all the prophets. Clean me and all these accessories with it. Properly cleanse and heal me, so that I will be dignified to have the company of the holy angels, the sacred wisdom, and the might that you alone have given your initiated over the good and unredeemed spirits. Amen. In my opinion, your robes and all other magical weapons, which will be addressed momentarily, should also be consecrated. They should be fixed firmly in your astral temple, or otherwise, if you're using a physical space, set them up. We'll go over each as they are mentioned. The above quote from Liber 8 spoke about the altar. It said its dimensions are, quote, 4 square, and the height shall be thrice half of the breadth, or double the breadth, end quote. 4 square simply means a cube. Breadth is the length across. So you can use a double cube altar like in Magic Book 4. You should make one yourself, because this is going to have very specific dimensions also, as I'll talk about it in a second. Basically, you measure out the breadth, which is the length, and you times that by, you cut it in half and you times it by 3. So, if your cube is 2 by 2 feet, half of that is 12 inches, 1 foot. So, your altar would be 2 feet wide and 3 feet tall. Now, it depends on your height. If you're tall, I recommend that you use a double cube, because then that's exactly double the breadth. There needs to be a door on the side of the cube where you stand, and I think a shelf within is beneficial to hold items that are not in use. You know, extra oil, you're going to have to make a wreath for your head, a fillet, so you can have extra materials stored in there. The next verse of the Liber 8 is about the censer, but I plucked a later paragraph from the text and am placing it here because it relates to the altar and censer. Quote, "From the top of the altar shall be of white wood, well polished, and in the center thereof he shall have placed a triangle of oak wood, painted with scarlet, and upon this triangle the 3 legs of the censer shall stand," end quote. So, the top of the double cube needs to be white in color, white wood. So there's white oak, white pine, ash, beech, and there's also balsam fir. I would suggest you look up correspondences and choose what's best at your discretion. The oak triangle, painted red, is basically the fire triangle. And just a side note, in Golden Dawn practices, it's often used as the triangle in the symbol of sulfur with a white cross, though in lower grades, the white cross is placed atop the uppermost point of the triangle. To continue, quote, "And upon the altar shall be a censer, hemispherical, supported upon 3 legs of silver, and within it an hemisphere of copper, and upon the top a grating of gilded silver. And thereupon shall he burn incense made of 4 parts of olibanum, and 2 parts of stacte, and 1 part of lin oils, or of cedar, or of sandal, and this is enough," end quote. So a hemispherical incense burner is basically half a sphere in shape. If you get like a copper one, you know, it'd be like a copper ball, but completely rounded with no flat base. I would recommend that, as then you don't have to worry about a copper inlay inside of it. Copper corresponds with Venus, and the text calls for a 3-leg stand of silver for this to be rested in, and a gilded silver grate on top. So silver corresponds with Luna. Gilded silver is basically gold-plated silver. Gold being Sol, and silver obviously being Luna. The thurible itself is cup in shape, but burns hot fire, and smoke corresponds with air generally. So there's a definite balance to the associations going on with the thurible, both planetary and elemental. That union of feminine and masculine, opposites. The prescribed incense is, as it said, parts frankincense, parts myrrh, and part lin aloes, which is agar wood. Sandal or cedar wood is good if agar or lin oils is not available. Quote, "And he shall also keep ready in a flask of crystal within that altar holy anointing oil made of myrrh and cinnamon and galangal," end quote. So this is Abramelin oil. There are different formulas. Most Elamites use this one. It's myrrh, cinnamon, galangal oils mixed together in equal parts. The crystal flask always struck me as interesting. Crystal has lunar properties, being the path of Gimel by correspondence. In this sense, it is the bridge of Tifereth and Kether, bestowing the solar radiance of the oil directly from the divine light. And there's something about crystal also that absorbs energy. Myrrh is Saturnian, Cinnamon and Galangal are solar, though Galangal is also of Mars. So it's almost like these opposing forces of Mars and Saturn surrounding a solar correspondence, which I think is really cool. Quote, "And even if he be of higher rank than a probationer, he shall yet wear the robe of the probationer, for the star of flame showeth forth Ra-Horquid openly upon the breast. And secretly the blue triangle that descendeth is Nuit, and the red triangle that ascendeth is Hadid. And I am the golden tau in the midst of their marriage. Also if he choose, he may wear a close-fitting robe of shot silk, purple and green, and upon it a cloak with sleeves of bright blue, covered with gold sequins and scarlet within." End quote. So the robe of the probationer is to be used as this robe is worn in the grade of Adeptus Minor without an AA. This verse actually states that anyone, whether they be probationer or higher, can wear the robe for this operation. The catch to that is that the initiate must be skilled in magic and have cleared the way internally for the union of the HGA. But regardless, much like it said that any person whosoever can swear the oath of the abyss, it almost seems like Aiwass is saying that knowledge and conversation may take place at any time once it becomes the will of that person, once they're ready. The alternative robe mentioned is in colors with the Thelemic pantheon, the purple and green, blue. Now, note, if you're doing this astrally, make sure you always wear the robe with every detail affixed firmly in your mind, and that you enter your temple space barefoot as instructed in the book of Abramelin. Quote, "And he shall make himself a wand of almond or of hazel, cut by his own hands at dawn at the equinox, or at the solstice, or on the day of Corpus Christi, or on one of the feast days that are appointed in the book of the law." End quote. Almond in flower, which means the tree has buds, is associated with Kether. But almond wood itself is the path of Gimel yet again, as is hazel. So, we have solar and lunar forces as the main correspondences of this operation. Luna is of course associated with the unconscious. Now in Liber Samek, we can get an idea perhaps of something similar going on through this operation. Quote, "The main purpose of this ritual, being Liber Samek, is to establish the relation of the subconscious self with the angel in such a way that the adept is aware that his angel is the unity which expresses the sum of the elements of that self, that his normal consciousness contains alien enemies introduced by the accidents of environment, and that his knowledge and conversation of his holy guardian angel destroys all doubts and delusions, confers all blessings, teaches all truth, and contains all delights." End quote. So to continue with Liber 8, quote, "And he shall engrave with his own hand upon the plate of gold the holy sevenfold table, or the holy 12-fold table, or some particular device. And it shall be foursquare within a circle, and the circle shall be winged, and he shall attach it about his forehead by a ribbon of blue silk." End quote. So, you could make your own symbol within a gold circle. It has to be gold. It could be a very thin piece of gold, but there should be a gold disc. If you're going to opt for engraving a holy sevenfold table, basically what you're doing, you're making something similar to what the French would have called a fouet, which is a headband with an ornament suspended in the center of the forehead, although these are usually hung by chains rather than a ribbon in this case. Now, its placement on the forehead, in my opinion, is to activate the Ajna chakra, especially since it is in the likeness of Hadid, who is associated with Chakma, and thus the Ajna by correspondence. The gold plate is a circle, and it should be inscribed with, in my opinion, a plain square. That ultimately symbolizes the table of practice of John Dee's, as outlined in the Enochian system. Because of the size of this amulet, I find it not necessary to engrave all 88 Enochian letters around the border of the square, nor in the heart of the table. Essentially, just a square in a circle of gold should suffice. I look at it like this: in the same way that when you see a pentagram, you know that the upmost point is spirit, and the lower right is fire. Thus, the latter corresponds with the cherubim of Leo. Even though no colors or symbols may be present in that pentagram, it's just 5 simple lines. It's the same thing with this headband. You see that square, you know it's the sevenfold table. You should know where those symbols are. You should know where the ensigns of creation go on that table. Also, the circle and square signify heaven and earth together in union, and so I find that this symbolism suffices. Quote, "Moreover, he shall wear a fillet of laurel or rose or ivy or rue, and every day after the prayer of sunrise he shall burn it in the fire of the censer." End quote. A fillet is a wreath-like headband, much like you would see worn in art from ancient Greece around the heads of various heroic figures or deities. To do this operation physically, you should then have a steady supply of the type of plant material you will use to craft your fillet each day. You wear it every prayer after sunrise prayers, then burn it the next morning in the incense burner. A daily burnt offering to start the day anew. You could see my Magic in Theory and Practice video about the bloody sacrifice, as well as my Mass of the Phoenix video to get more of an idea of why we do burnt offerings, or offerings in general. Quote, "Now he shall pray thrice daily about sunset, and at midnight, and at sunrise. And if he be able, he shall pray also 4 times between sunrise and sunset. The prayer shall last for the space of an hour, at the least, and he shall seek ever to expand it, and to inflame himself in praying. Thus shall he invoke his holy guardian angel for 11 weeks. And in any case, he shall pray 7 times daily during the last week of the 11 weeks." End quote. So you could also see my video about the number 11 in Thelema. And these prayers can be various combinations, as I said before. Invocations, impromptu, pre-made prayers that encapsulate the dire need to attain union with your angel. Ultimately, the more you put in is what you're going to get out of this. This is not an operation to be half-assed. You would only fail if you did that, and this would sorely hurt you in the process if you fail this operation because you're not really aspiring towards your angel with everything that you have. Quote, "And during all this time he shall have composed an invocation suitable with such wisdom and understanding as may be given him from the crown, and this shall he write in letters of gold upon the top of the altar." End quote. As a side note, I've often thought of KEthyr almost as a spiritual satellite of sorts. Its function is to maintain the unity of the individual with all other things. Thus, drawing down the light from KEthyr is much similar to drawing down an invocation from the highest source of one's being, the spiritual core of existence and the universe itself. You want this invocation in particular to be drawn from that source. You write it on the white wood altar top with gold, and this has a definite vibe of KEthyr and Tiferet, the white wood and the gold ink, connecting through the logos. Remember that if you're doing this operation on the astral, you need to add the details of your invocation written on the altar every time you invoke your astral temple. Quote, "Moreover, shall he copy his invocation upon a sheet of pure white vellum with Indian ink, and he shall illuminate it according to his fancy and imagination. That shall be informed by beauty." End quote. Vellum is traditionally made from goat, sheep, or calf skins. But if you're vegan or just don't believe in animal slaughter for various reasons, there are today also cellulose vellum papers, which I find in most magical operations suffices. They're normally what I use. These, of course, are lacking in the energetic application of the animal hide, but I do find them suitable. Quote, "And on the first day of the 12th week, he shall enter the chamber at sunrise, and he shall make his prayer, having first burnt the conjuration that he made upon the vellum in the fire of the lamp." End quote. So this is the 78th day of the operation. You had 11 weeks, and now the first day of the 12th week is the 78th day. 78 being Rhoda, Tarot, Torah, etc. Any user of tarot cards would recognize that there are also 78 cards in the deck. And Aiwass reveals to Crowley in this ether, quote, "My name is called Aiwass, that is 8 and 70, end quote. There's a footnote that states, quote, "This conceals a mystery. I have been fooled myself with my Aleph Yod Vav Aleph Samek, Aiwass, equals 78. For 8 plus 70 equals chet and ayin. Chet, which is spelled in full, equals 418, the formula of the new aeon. And ayin, or Capricorn, is Set or Hadid, the eye, and he is that Hadid who is manifested as 418, Abrahadabra, end quote. Note later on, via Samuel Aiwass Jacobs, Crowley later attributed the gematria value of Aiwass to the number 93 with a different spelling. But in this ether, Aiwass identifies that the spelling equals 78, which is interesting. So basically, follow the instructions above. At sunrise, you burn the vellum and make your hour or more of prayers once more. Full earnesty should go into this one especially. It's like the ultimate culmination of the operation. So burning a prayer is, in my mind, very much like releasing this energetic force of intention into the universe. Also, symbolically, announcing that this phase of the work is complete and the conjuration has been made, and that you no longer need this thing that you're burning. Note, this is being burned in the fire of the lamp, not the censer. The lamp represents at its core the one, the ego, becoming united with the many, which is the all. It's, in this sense, symbolic of the microcosm being absorbed into the macrocosm. The hexagram, you're coming into union with your holy guardian angel. Pentagram and the hexagram in union. Quote, then at his prayer shall the chamber be filled with light insufferable for splendor, and a perfume intolerable for sweetness. And his holy guardian angel shall appear unto him. Yea, his holy guardian angel shall appear unto him, so that he shall be wrapped away into the mystery of holiness. All that day shall he remain in the enjoyment of the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. End quote. So astral and divine light should flood the temple space if all else has been done correctly up to this point, and if the magician is truly ready for their knowledge and conversation with their holy guardian angel. As far as what your angel converses with you about, there's no way of anyone else knowing in advance what that's going to be. You may get instructions, you may have a lone conversation, you may get scolded. Many things can happen. The angel is there to fulfill an agenda of the universe, and that which is beyond, to help you attain unity. It's been assigned unto you specifically. Its nature is suited to guide you magically and spiritually. And now what it's going to tell you is partly related to your true will, partly related to your karma. So just see the next verse. Quote, and for 3 days after he shall remain from sunrise unto sunset in this temple, and he shall obey the counsel that his angel shall have given unto him, and he shall suffer those things that are appointed. End quote. So I recommend that you be able to fast for those 3 days. Maybe perhaps have some type of water, or you could do like a solar fast and just have a very, very light meal, like some type of plain whole grain or oats or something with no added fruits or sugars, in a small quantity at sunset, and just a little bit of water here and there. But you should be able to do that if possible. Otherwise, do not leave the temple for these 3 days. You'll have been given definite instructions on what to do during this time period. It may be anything from silent meditation to specific rituals. It is at this point between you and your angel. Quote, and for 10 days thereafter shall he withdraw himself, as shall have been taught unto him from the fullness of that communion. For he must harmonize the world that is within the world that is without. End quote. So the very interesting difference between Liber 8 from Liber Samekh and the Abramelin operation is that there's no working with lower forces mentioned. Even in Samekh, some of the barbarous names are energetically malignant. And in Abramelin's operation, you perform an evocation of the four kings. So this dictation from Aiwass does away with that component, essentially. I honestly think this is most beneficial, as not everybody should be working with low spirits. Though, of course, your angel may specifically instruct you to perform an evocation. That is very possible. Also, I found in the months after I had done a really monumental working and began tearing through my karma, I went about it by throwing myself into making drastic decisions, which ultimately I needed to do to work out karma I had penned in. And ultimately it wasn't until weeks or months afterwards that I kind of reflected on that time period and realized I possibly could have just sat in asana for, a much longer time than a few weeks and months, and I would have been able to still mentally work out that specific karma. Today, I do think a full withdrawal after a life-changing magical operation is the way to go. You need time to process and assimilate what has happened, reorganize your internal world, think about what you're going to be doing in the physical world from there on. It's like a hermit going up to a cave for years only to come back with mystical powers. Much the same is laid out here for the newly minted adept. Anytime you have a big energetic experience, you always run the risk of making mistakes because you're overly ecstatic or a little bit crazy, and so a good period of withdrawal is highly recommended in many cases anyway. So you should be in reflection in your home, not necessarily in the temple, for a full 10 days, introspection, journaling, the whole nine. Quote, "And at the end of the 91 days shall he return into the world, and there shall he perform that work to which the angel shall have appointed him." End quote. I.e., do their true will and nothing but their true will. So 91 days this operation lasts. 11 weeks, that's 77. 1 day with the angel, that's 78. 3 days following its instructions within your temple, that's 79, 80, 81. And 10 days in withdrawal, 91 days total. 91 is a fascinating number. It's the mystical number of Kether as Chachad, which is valued 13, it means unity, Achad. Thus, sigma 1 to 13 equals 91. By gematria, we get words like Amen, Mana, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Adonai interlaced, a tree, angel, Pecht, which is extension. So you could see Liber 58 for more definitions of 91. But ultimately, it conceals a bunch of very holy ideologies. Finally, quote, "And more than this it is not necessary to say, for his angel shall have entreated him kindly, and showed him in what manner he may be most perfectly involved. And unto him that hath this master there is nothing else that he needeth, so long as he continue in the knowledge and conversation of the angel, so that he shall come at last into the city of the pyramids." End quote. So this verse, I think, only needs a little explanation. It's basically, you're going to be doing what your angel and you have talked about. You will be able to see how the angel is participating in your life hereafter. The largest portion of the great work is doing your true will whilst maintaining union with the HGA. There are two main milestones in the great work. These are, of course, attaining knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel and then crossing the abyss. While every initiation, every grade, and every working you complete should definitely be considered a personal milestone, all of these are geared towards these two pivotal events in the magician's career. Knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, crossing the abyss and achieving unity with the supernals. Love is the law, love under will. I'll catch y'all on the next one.